warm up a little? Is your mom coming? Give an 8.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's master class from Temple Music Prep. We're very pleased to have our special guest here. She's local to us, so we get to see her regularly when we visit the Philadelphia Orchestra. We always know that not every great performer is a good teacher, but we know that every teacher who gets the work done is also a very good musician. Fortunately, today we have a wonderful musician, a wonderful teacher, and a wonderful performer to work with our students. Priscilla Lee is the Associate Principal Cellist of the Philadelphia Orchestra. It's our great pleasure to welcome Miss Lee, and we'll hear from two of our cello students here. The first performer will be Isabel Morales, and Isabel is a student of Rachel Freivogel. And it's all yours.
enjoyed it so much. There's something about this Bach suite, you know, we're so lucky to have these 6 suites for cello. They're so special and so unique, each and every one of them. And what I love about the second suite is we have to understand that it's a collection, each suite is a collection of 6 movements. And they all start with a prelude, just like what you just played. And then we go to an allemande and a courant and a sarabande and a minuet 1 and 2, or a bourrée 1 and 2, or a gavotte 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter, those 2 little short things. And then it always ends with a jig. And there's something so interesting about this collection that makes up a suite. And do you know what all those movements are considered? Can you say that again? No, say it again. I think you said it. Yes, they are dances. They're dances. They should have this movement in them that makes us want to dance. And it doesn't matter what the tempo is. So there's slow dances and fast dances. But what's interesting about this prelude that you just played for me is I think it's only the second suite and this third suite where the prelude is in 3. Meaning 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and when we are in 3, that feels like a dance. A lot of these movements feel like a dance when they're in 3. And I just want to ask you a question. We're going to go through it a little bit more carefully with the short time that we have. But what is, when you play, for example, just the first 4 measures that you play, what beat do we hang on out of those first, second, and third beats? First. So would you say da da da? The third beat? So da 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 da. I think it's the second beat. I think it's a common pattern that we have throughout the entire prelude. He always has this. We're hanging on the second beat. And then we're resolving, but hanging again. There's always this hang on the second beat, which I think is so interesting. And when I think about it in terms of like rhythm and in terms of a dance, there's something really, really beautiful that he does in that hanging note that makes us feel like it's so easy after the second beat to go back into the third beat and then to go, it's like this wheel, that it there lingers and then it goes again and lingers again, right? So that's something when we play that second beat, which is the longest note ever that we have except for the end, we'll talk about the end. What is the sort of sound that you want to have?
Like clear and like growing.
Awesome. And growing in our sound. Also, what can we do in our left hand to make it growing?
Widen the vibrato a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. There's something that's so nice in that long beat that we have that the sound doesn't have to just be stuck. It can flow a little bit. And in our right hand, which is our bow and which is our breath, essentially it's our breath, that we use. Do you think the bow speed should be exactly just the same?
Eventually like speed up and like slow down.
Yeah, there's so much variation we can do in our bow speed in that long note that we have. Can you play the first 4 measures for me? Beautiful. Now, one thing and this is just me being really picky, I'm listening so closely to your sound. Sometimes I feel like you give a little kick I hear a little bit at the end. And I think it's just because you're preparing the next bow. But if we really think, if I were to sing it, you know, da 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 da, I think there's a tiny bit of a taper on that note, I think. I think to me that sounds the most natural if I'm singing it. Can you try doing that? I want you to just play that note for me. You hear what I did in it? I'm trying to release the note a little bit. Yeah, and when we talk about this wheel that's going around, you know, I think about like Ferris wheel or something, but not as terrifying, you know. But if I'm moving in the dance feeling, you know, I'm thinking that the downbeat is not as important as you're playing it, but I'm thinking of it just sweeping me up to the next second. Try it again. And I think what you just played for me is the very first part. I don't think so. I think it's really sad, actually. I think it's pretty somber. You know, we're playing in D minor. It would be totally different if we did. That would be a totally different kind of feeling. But we're doing. Sounds sad. I think it sounds sad. There's a kind of sorrow in the feeling. A couple weeks ago, some of you might have been at the concert, but Yo-Yo Ma played this Prelude at our opening night concert at the Kimmel Center, and no one in the orchestra knew that he was going to play it. Because you know what, on our call sheet, it was like the very first thing, like he came out on stage and then he played the solo Bach Prelude. And in our call sheet, it said that he was gonna play the D major one, which is the 6th suite. So we're all expecting that. I was really excited to hear, I wanted to hear him play that, And he came out, and that's a totally different feeling. If I were to start that D major suite, I would probably start, with that kind of movement to start it. But he sat down, and we're all expecting him to play that, and he was like, and immediately before he even played the first note, I was like, he's not playing the D major suite, And I don't know if it was a mistake or what, or if he was just moved to play the D minor suite, but there was something so magical about how he played it, because he is like the master of playing different characters. And he really made everybody, I think, feel like weeping there. There was something very, very strong about what he was saying with his playing. Now, I think you play this beautifully. You're phrasing it so well. Your intonation is so good. Your sound is so nice. I want to work with you on the last 5 chords, because personally, for me, the last 5 chords are the hardest part of the entire prelude. And do you feel the same way too?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me why. What are some reasons why?
Well, it's kind of like I have to sustain the bow to get to the top part, and it's kind of hard vibrating in a chord.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because the end you have to kind of play with the dynamics, and sometimes it's hard to decide which ones you should use.
Okay, good. I think it's so incredibly hard because it's slow. And after all of these, if you look at my music, it's basically all 16th notes, with a couple of 8th notes and quarter notes here and there. But all of a sudden, the last 5 measures are just dotted half notes, holding it the entire measure. And we can't speed up, we have to just, I want to practice. How slow can my bow go? My down bows have to sound like my up bows. And we can break them up however we want. I can go, I can do whatever. I can do a roll. I can do something like that. But it's this constant pressure and slow speed that is probably the hardest thing. Yes, we have to hold down double steps too, and kind of vibrate them too, and make them sound not tight, right? So how would you practice that?
Practice the bottom ones separately, and then the top, and then switching to the top ones.
Good, and I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. And when we're thinking, these are 5 measures of doing this. I don't want to get into a music theory lesson with you, but I just want you to go by how you feel in these chords, and what sounds open and what sounds dissonant, kind of closed, or what sounds comfortable and what sounds uncomfortable. So if we just play the bottom notes, to you, does that sound comfortable? No, it's a 7th. We're playing an interval of a 7th. It's not, it sounds unresolved. So there's the tightness there, right? What about the as that one. What about?
It's a fifth. It's more comfortable since it's a fifth.
Yeah, it's more comfortable, and there's there's a reason why fifths are called perfect fifths. There's something so nice about when they sound like really in tune, which I'm not really playing. But what about the next to last chord? Again, it's the same thing. Now
It's the fifth, so it's still comfortable.
yep. And if we're to analyze it, it would be like the 5 chord to the 1 chord. It should sound as if it's resolving and then it's complete and we're done. For the very last chord, what's the character that you're thinking of?
It's like a mix of like what you said, somber, but like angry at the same time. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
to me personally, do you think it should sound in the same vein as the very first measure?
No.
No. If we were to tell a whole story from the first measure to the last measure, the first measure I'm thinking, oh, I'm kind of sad, and then the last measure I'm thinking, I got it, it's done, it's resolved. That's the change in like making a whole story complete. Yeah. Can I just ask you, I want you to do it in character. Can I hear you do an up bow? We're gonna do the second last chord to the last chord, and just the fifth to the fifth. So 2, 3, and released. Can I just hear that? An up bow to a down bow. Good. Now I want to hear a direction, like we're gonna go. And so I don't mind the break that you're doing, but even if you're releasing, I want to have this. I'm actually jumping and I'm landing. Yeah. Can we do it again? Yeah, to me that sounds much more resolved. And it sounds like a good ending. Now if we go back, let's play the top 2 double stops. And remember with this first one, how does that feel?
Very comfortable.
It feels kind of gross. This double stop is what we call a tritone. And it's supposed to make you feel kind of very dissonant. Yeah, so there's an ill squishy feeling to that. What about?
It's more comfortable because it's a regular minor chord.
Yes, what about?
It's less comfortable, but it's
I think there's something, it's again that 7th. It sounds unresolved, but then
that one's like more comfortable because it's like a leading tone.
it's a leading tone and it's like in major, and then we go back and we're going to the end. So what I got out of, from what we just kind of went by how we feel in those chords, the first chord is a little gross and uncomfortable. The next one is kind of resolved. The next chord is a little bit uncomfortable again. The next chord is kind of resolved, and then we really resolved it. Does that make sense? So I just want you to think, I'm thinking, this is uncomfortable. This feels okay, but I wanted you, as a listener, I want to feel that uncomfortableness. I want to feel that strike that you have, So can you try it once? I personally think vibrato should be kind of minimal because I like hearing these harmonies. And especially when they're really in tune, there's something so powerful about the intervals that you're playing. So can you try once for me? Maybe no vibrato, but let's concentrate on our sound. And remember, uncomfortable, resolved. Uncomfortable, resolved, and then really resolved. Okay. Now, when we have in our right hand, I'm wondering, can we experiment with not bringing them always the same way? You know? So what if we did, you know, I practice these chords a lot. A lot of different ways. They're one of the hardest things, and one of the really cool things that one of my teachers taught me to do when I just wasn't sure, like I was just so uncomfortable, I didn't like how I sounded, and I was getting frustrated. He made me actually pluck them. So there's like something like that. You know, like, and if you notice, I did them all at a slightly different speeds. Or I tried to bring out the bottom note, or I tried, you know what I mean? So can you try plucking it for me and be like so expressive, like as if he wrote it like that. I like it. Do it again, because I feel like it's getting better and better. Yeah, your thumb was super expressive, you know, and that's a bow. So can you try it now, bowed? Try it. Start again. Let's start again. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for playing for me.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just gonna keep it to the side. Okay.
Do you have it memorized?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is this the Allemande of the first suite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our next performer is Matthew Chung. Matthew is a student of Xiaoming Chen, excuse me, and he'll also be playing some Bach here.
Do you think you can do the repeats for me?
Okay. Both?
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it so much. I find it interesting, and this is, there's no right or wrong way to play Bach, but I'm just curious, like, the bowings you're doing,
Yeah,
how it's a combination of slurs and separate notes.
yeah.
How did you come up with them?
My teacher just gave them to me.
Oh, okay. What's really interesting is when I'm old, okay, when I was your age and I learned these suites, and what's amazing about these suites, and I'll say it over and over again, as a cellist, we are so lucky to have these Bach cello suites, okay? And throughout your life, as you get older and older, and hopefully you'll keep playing cello and cello and cello, you're gonna go back and you're gonna relearn the suites again. And I think, like, throughout my life, I've looked at this G major suite, and I've probably learned it and I studied it with different teachers maybe 3 or 4 times. And I can say that every single time I discovered something new, and every single time let me try something else. I'm always experimenting and feeling it out, right? And what's really interesting was when I was your age and when I was studying in California, Pablo Casals was so big, and his recordings are just legendary. He's the one that discovered these suites. And there was a different style of playing back in the 1950s and 60s, and I wasn't alive then. But the recordings I heard, and what I heard a lot of my teachers playing, like how they played, was very much slurred and legato, and to me right now in this day, like now in 2021, 2021, to me, I'm like, oh, that sounds so slow. And it sounds a little bit like affected kind or whatever, but we have to understand it. Back then, that was like the style. That was the style. So even it was very slurred and legato and singing like that. Now, when I go forward, maybe, you know, when I was in college and I went back and learned these again, there was a different edition that came out. And it's like a Baron writer and whatever. And what they found was they found these manuscripts of the suites, and they weren't in J.S. Bach's hand. They were in his wife's hand, who at the time it was known that Anna Magdalena Bach, she kind of, you know, put it down on paper for him. And you can kind of see, like, later, like, I have this Bach part where it has the published part, and then it has the manuscript right next to it. And when people saw this, they were totally shocked because she barely wrote slurs. And she did something like this, and it's really obvious in the Prelude. She does something like this. Have you heard it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what a lot of people, how they play it now, do. And so all of a sudden it went from being, went from being that to, so much faster, so much lighter, and so different, right? I would say I learned it both ways, and maybe the third time I learned it, I started to do a combination of both. I just wanted to find something that felt good for me. So I'm just, what I've learned, and by teacher and teacher and teacher, if a bowing feels uncomfortable, or you find yourself in the wrong place of the bow or something, or you feel kind of stuck, change it. So I think when I was much older than you, I kind of went through it and tried to learn it with fresh eyes. And I really tried to make it so it's like driving, I tried to make it so it's the most comfortable, because I feel like if you're comfortable playing it as a listener, I'm comfortable listening to you. Yeah? So, I'm not saying like whatever, but I want you to go in it and make it your own. And just when you're playing this, I have the same comment that I said to Isabel is, I personally wish you just had more dynamics. There's little things like when we have something like, that scale going up is so beautiful, and I kind of wanted more sound or more breath in the sound, or something like that, or different things, like you're doing it with your timing, and you're doing it with I hear you doing it. I just want there to be more dynamic range. And when you're looking at this Allemande, if you're just looking at it, like looking at the notes, and you're looking at it, would you say that it feels like horizontal or vertical? Do you know what I mean by that?
I think I do. I think it feels horizontal. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, it's the rise and fall of the notes. As a listener, and as I'm listening to you, and as I'm looking at it, there's a whole bunch of scales. He writes a lot of scales, descending scales, ascending scales. And I think the most natural feeling is to get softer when we descend, to get louder when we go up, right? I mean, I think, yes, there are places where we're not going to do that all the time, but I think that feels the most natural. So can you start again for me? When we have... I don't notice I'm really trying to go up, and I'm really trying, if anything, I'm also trying to go down too. So, can you play like the first 4 measures, first phrase for me? Beautiful. I loved how you phrased it this time. You went. You made a decrescendo, and personally, I like that. I like that. I heard you do. I heard you do that too the first time, and I don't have anything against it, but just personally, I like that. Yadum, bottom, 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 bottom. And same with the. That just sounds more natural to me. Now, when we talk about rising and falling, and this is in the case of when we're doing dynamics, like I want to sound louder or be softer. How do we do that? Is it a right hand thing or left hand?
Right hand.
And how do we do that in our right hand?
More or less pressure, more or less speed.
Okay, I like how you said that. More or less pressure, more or less speed. Now, if I were to, I want you kind of, let's experiment. I want you to kind of take away the pressure thing. And I want you to think about speed. I always say, and as I think, my right hand is my breath. You know, we always want to try to play as we're singing it. And if I want to get louder, da 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 da, am I using more breath? I definitely am, yes. What about ya da 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 da?
Less.
Less, yes. Now, our bow, when we think about speed, I want you to think of our breath being our speed. So if I don't want to, just for practice, you know, something, I'm not thinking about pressure. I'm thinking about just speed. There's a little bit of a that you hear, right? Can you try as an experiment from the beginning, and can you play, once the 16 notes start, can you play all separate bows? So, and I kind of want you to play with this sound, okay? Like, don't, it's gonna sound kind of funny, but just try it. You play too pretty. You play too pretty. I want it to be a little bit like kind of grody sounding, you know? Like try it again, you know, this kind of, like you're really floating. So I'm not doing anything with pressure. And I'll tell you why I'm making you do this. I'll tell you why. But do it one more time. Like, do it one more time. As we're descending, we're going to use less breath, right? So I want to see this array of different strokes. Good. Now, in the sound, before we go to what you heard, physically, how did that feel different?
It felt kind of awkward.
Okay. Was there a part of your body that moved more?
My arm.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I made you go like this, you know? I made you, like, just move more, right? Now, if I were to, the reason I'm making you do this is, to me, it sounded louder and softer, and you did nothing with the pressure. It wasn't actually like a volume thing. It was really what we call when the sound is being released. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I say release, you know, I'm releasing the sound. It's ringing. So there's a ringing that is happening, and it has nothing to do with pressure. It has everything to do with speed of the bow and how we release it. So there's so much music like we can do just by doing that. And the reason I make you do this is because, do you know the teacher Peter Wiley, the cellist Peter Wiley?
No.
He's an amazing cellist. He is the teacher at Curtis. And when I've had a number of lessons with him, and one time I played for him, and I thought I was playing well, you know, it was going fine. And he said to me, Priscilla, your sound is like stuck. It is not released. And I remember the moment, like, it was hide and C major concerto, and I played it kind of like this, you know. You know, I was like, oh, this sounds decent, you know. I didn't think it sounded like terrible. But he's like, that sounds so stuck. And he said, can you play it for me like this? And I was like, what? And he did not want any into the string at all, which in general, that's what we work on so much, you know. So he wanted me to step back and do something so bizarre and so weird. And so I tried that. He's like, you're like moving your arm like crazy. I want you to get used to this feeling. And he said, go home and only play like this for like 3 days. So I did everything like that for 3 days. I did scales. You know, I did everything like that, to the point where my family was like, what are you doing? You know, they're like, that sounds ridiculous. What are you doing? And I was like, it's something Peter Wiley told me to do. I'm just going to try it, you know, and I did it for 3 days. And after 3 days, I was like, okay, I'm going to slowly start to work back into getting a better sound, you know. And it changed my life. Like, I'll never forget how amazing the feeling was, because all of a sudden, there was a kind of like release in the sound. There was a ring to the sound. And as a listener, I felt like, oh, like, I know why he made me do it. And that's kind of, I want you to do that, because right now you play with such a really good sound, and it's very in the string, and the tone is good. But there's something I miss, especially when you're ascending, that I wish the sound would be a little bit more released. So can you do it with your bowings and everything? But remember, physically, you felt like you were moving your arm more, right? So that's a change I want you to do. And also physically, you're playing lighter. So can we experiment? Can you play for me? Go on. It's sounding so beautiful. How'd you feel? I thought that sounded so beautiful. How did you feel?
I actually did feel like the release a little bit more.
Yeah, didn't it feel like it was ringing more? And it wasn't that you were playing louder. You know, it's just it was ringing, it had breath in it. And I really like that. I thought that was so beautiful. Now, when we're working on, okay, I want you to work on your very first chord. So the reason I wanted you to do repeats is, I think generally when you play this suite, and especially if you do all 6 movements, you should do the repeats. I think it's nice to do the repeats, and we can always do something different in the repeat, right? So if you're working on this and you're like, oh, I like how I phrased that, but maybe in the repeat I might try something different. So I want you to be open to that, right? But one of the hardest things for me, just personally, is to feel like the dance that we talk about, this all in one should be a dance, and we should feel it right when we're going back to the repeat. So meaning, so if I'm thinking this dance, you know, we can take time, of course, whatever, but there's the wheel, you know, like we should just be propelled to go forward, and it should sound effortless. And that's something that with that breath, and I hear you breathing, which I like, you know, and even in your motion, that's something I practice when I do the repeats. But I just want to work with you on this first chord. I think it should taper a little bit, or I think you should finish the sound, and it has it's exactly like the second. So you know, same thing, you know. I want to listen really carefully, and I want to release the note, you know, exactly how I hear it in my head, you know. So can you try that? I liked it. What if you did it even, and I'm really thinking of like the rhythm too. And Bach does this so much. He always has a note that's tied into the next beat. So inside in my like inner metronome, you know, da 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 da, right? That's the feeling we should have. I should always feel that second beat. Da 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 da. Can you try it again? We're thinking this pickup note, and all in this suite, there's always a pickup note. That one too. That pickup note. I think that pickup note should not be a dead note. We have a little vibrato, like. I like that one. Do it again. I know, it's a really hard beginning, isn't it? And it's like it has something to do with the rhythm, but something to do with the pickup note. Do you think the pickup note should be stronger than the downbeat?
No.
No, I don't think so either. And to make it sound, and I noticed the best ones that you did is when you really breathe, like ta-da, or I'm thinking ta-da. It's really hard to do if we're not breathing, or if we're not like ready in our body. Yeah, can you try again? And take your time. Yeah, I like it. You know, it sounds so natural. And do you mind, can you play like the last measure before the repeat and do the repeat? You know that one, releasing this note and being right there to play the repeat. Try it. Yeah, that's something I would practice. I think it's hard to do the repeat. It's even hard to go on too. One last thing. We're out of time, but in the second half, when you have I'm talking about these eighth notes that you have. Yeah. They're so beautiful. You know, like the notes are so beautiful. Like, and I like how you're playing them. It definitely should be yum, bum, bum. I'm thinking about like trickles of water coming down. Do you think they're even?
No.
No, it should be like strong and less strong and less strong, you know, and that is so much of the dance feeling. And that's where I felt a little bit that you could have a little bit more release in your sound when you were playing those notes. You want to do that for me? Let's like measure like 25, like the measure before. Yeah, work on it. I don't think you need to feel like you have to hurry up and get back. Whatever feels natural is the best timing you should do. And when you go back through it, I think it would be nice if you gave the short notes a little bit of vibrato. It will help ring it. Yeah. Yeah.
Should I go again or not?
Sure, do it one last time. Yeah.
All right.
Good. Yeah. So I think that sequence is so beautiful, you know. Okay, thank you for playing for me. I enjoyed it.
Please join me once again in thanking Miss Lee for being with us today. We got to send you all on to your ensembles now, but we are so grateful for you being with us this afternoon. Go see her down the street at the Kimmel Center.
Thank you.